Dad's gone. What do you mean he's gone? He moved to Canada. He left 2 days after your surgery. But I've been in the hospital for 3 weeks. He didn't even say goodbye? He said he couldn't handle seeing you like this. He just left. Did he leave a number, an address, anything? No, nothing. I'm sorry, Desmond. My father relocated to Canada while I was in the hospital and left no forwarding address. Hi, I'm Desmond. Today I'm going to tell you my story, but before I continue, please share and subscribe to hear more stories like this. Some people think blood is thicker than water. That family will always be there when you need them most. I used to believe that too. Then I woke up from a coma to find out my father had moved to another country without telling me. I'm 31 years old, working as a mechanical engineer in Detroit, Michigan. Or at least I was before the accident. I was driving home from work on a rainy October evening when a semi-truck ran a red light and T-boned my car. The impact was devastating. Multiple fractures, internal injuries, traumatic brain injury. I don't remember the accident itself or the week that followed. I was in a medically induced coma for 8 days. When they brought me out of it, I spent another week in intensive care, then 2 more weeks in a regular hospital room. During that entire time, my father visited exactly twice. The first time was the day after the accident, before they induced the coma. The second time was 3 days later, while I was still unconscious. Then he vanished. My father, Gregory, was 59 years old. He'd been divorced from my mother since I was 12. She'd passed away from breast cancer when I was 23. I had no siblings. My father was literally my only immediate family. We weren't super close, but we had dinner once a month, talked on the phone weekly. I thought we had a decent relationship. The person who stayed by my bedside was my girlfriend, Natasha. We'd been dating for 2 years, living together for 6 months. She took leave from her job as a dental hygienist to be there every single day. She advocated for me with doctors, researched my injuries, made sure I got the best care possible. "Where's my dad?" I asked her one afternoon, still groggy from pain medication. "Why hasn't he visited?" Natasha's face did something complicated. Sadness, anger, something else I couldn't identify. "Desmond, we need to talk about that." "Is he okay? Did something happen?" "He's fine. Physically, he's fine." "Then where is he?" That's when she told me. "Dad's gone. What do you mean he's gone?" "He moved to Canada. He left 2 days after your surgery. But I've been in the hospital for 3 weeks. He didn't even say goodbye. He said he couldn't handle seeing you like this. He just left. Did he leave a number, an address, anything? No, nothing. I'm sorry, Desmond." I couldn't process it. My father had abandoned me while I was fighting for my life in a hospital bed. While I was unconscious and vulnerable, he'd packed up his apartment, driven across the border to Canada, and disappeared without a trace. Natasha explained that he'd called her cell phone, not mine. "I can't deal with this," he'd told her. "Hospitals make me anxious. Seeing him like that, it's too much. I need to start fresh somewhere. Tell him I'm sorry." Tell him I'm sorry? Not even sorry enough to wait until I was conscious to say it himself. My best friend from college, a software engineer named Malik, came to visit when he heard. He was furious. "Your dad did what?" "Man, that's cold. That's ice cold." "I don't understand why," I said, still trying to wrap my brain around it. Was I really that much of a burden? "This isn't about you, Des. This is about him being a coward." The hospital social worker, a kind woman named Mrs. Pemberton, helped me think through the practical implications. "Do you have your father's financial information? Was he helping with bills?" "No, I'm financially independent, but he was my emergency contact for everything, my medical power of attorney." "We'll need to update all that," she said gently. "Is there anyone else who can take on that role?" I looked at Natasha. She squeezed my hand. "I'll do it, whatever you need." The doctors said I was lucky to be alive. My recovery would be long and difficult. Physical therapy for months, possibly cognitive therapy too. I'd need help with basic tasks for weeks. I couldn't drive. I couldn't work. I could barely walk to the bathroom, and my father had decided that was too inconvenient for him. I was discharged from the hospital 5 weeks after the accident. Natasha drove me to our apartment, helped me up the stairs, settled me on the couch. Her sister, Yolanda, had helped set up a temporary bedroom on the first floor since I couldn't manage stairs yet. "You didn't have to do all this," I said. "Yes, I did, because that's what people who love each other do. They show up. The contrast to my father couldn't have been more stark. Over the next few weeks, as I struggled through physical therapy and tried to rebuild my strength, I kept hoping my father would reach out. A phone call, an email, something. Nothing came. I tried to find him. I called his old cell phone number, disconnected. I emailed his old email address, bounced back. I contacted his former employer, a manufacturing plant where he'd worked for 20 years. They said he'd quit suddenly, given 2 weeks' notice, and left no forwarding information. It's like he wants to disappear, I told Malik during one of his visits. Like he wants to erase his old life completely. Which includes erasing you, Malik said bluntly. I'm sorry, man, that's harsh, but it's true. My physical therapist, a woman named Dr. Chen, noticed I was distracted during sessions. Everything okay? You seem upset. I told her about my father. She nodded slowly. I've seen this before, actually. Family members who can't handle seeing loved ones injured or sick. They run instead of facing it. It's a trauma response, but that doesn't make it okay. How do I stop being angry about it? Who says you should stop? Anger is valid here. He abandoned you when you needed him most. That's a betrayal. Don't rush yourself to forgive. 3 months after the accident, I was doing better physically. Walking without assistance, driving again, planning to return to work part-time. Natasha and I had grown closer through everything. She'd seen me at my absolute worst and hadn't flinched. I want to marry you, I told her one evening, not because you took care of me, but because you showed me what real love looks like, what real commitment means. She cried and said yes. We started planning a small wedding for the following summer. I tried one more time to find my father. I wanted to tell him I was engaged even if he didn't deserve to know. I hired a private investigator, a man named Mr. Holloway who specialized in finding people who didn't want to be found. It took him 2 weeks. Found him, Vancouver, British Columbia. He's renting an apartment, working at a hardware store, living under his own name, so he's not hiding exactly, just disconnected. Can you give me his address and phone number? Are you sure you want this? Sometimes not knowing is easier. I need to try. I called the number Mr. Holloway provided. My father answered on the third ring. Hello? Dad, it's Desmond. Silence. Long, horrible silence. How did you get this number? I hired someone to find you. Dad, why did you leave? I told Natasha I couldn't handle it. Couldn't handle what? Seeing your son in the hospital, being there for me? It was too much, Desmond. The machines, the tubes, not knowing if you'd wake up. It reminded me of when your mother was sick. I couldn't go through that again. So you ran. I needed to protect myself. What about protecting me? What about being my father? I'm not good at this stuff. You know that. I never have been. He was right. He'd been emotionally distant my whole life. But I'd thought when it really mattered, he'd show up. I was wrong. I'm getting married, I said. Next June, I'm calling to invite you. Another pause. I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? It would be awkward. You're clearly angry with me. Of course I'm angry. You abandoned me. See, this is what I mean. There's too much tension. I think it's better if we just move on separately. Move on? You're my father. Biology doesn't obligate me to anything, Desmond. I did my job. I raised you to adulthood. You're on your own now. The coldness in his voice was shocking. Did you ever actually love me? Of course I did. I do, but love doesn't mean I have to sacrifice my own peace of mind. It kind of does, actually. That's exactly what love means. We're not going to agree on this. I wish you well, Desmond. I really do. But I don't want contact. Please respect that. He hung up. I sat there holding the phone, feeling like I'd been hit by that truck all over again. Natasha found me an hour later, still sitting in the same spot. What happened? I told her everything. She was furious. He doesn't deserve you. He never did. He's still my dad. No, a dad is someone who shows up. He's just a man who contributed DNA. She was right, but it still hurt. I decided to tell my story. Not for revenge exactly, but for closure. And maybe to warn other people that sometimes family fails you in the worst possible ways. I wrote a long post on social media detailing everything that had happened. The accident, the coma, my father's disappearance, the phone call. I didn't sugarcoat it. I didn't protect him. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of comments from people sharing similar stories. Parents who'd abandoned them, siblings who'd disappeared during crises, family members who'd proven unreliable when it mattered most. But I also got comments from people who knew my father, his former co-workers, neighbors from his old apartment building, people from his church that he'd stopped attending years ago. One message stood out. It was from a woman named Teresa who dated my father briefly about 10 years ago. "Your dad has a pattern," she wrote. "When things get hard, he runs. He did it with your mother. He did it with me. He's done it with every relationship he's ever had. It's not about you. It's about him being fundamentally unable to handle difficulty." That should have made me feel better. It didn't. My wedding approached. Malik agreed to stand up as my best man. Natasha's father, a kind man named Vernon, who'd welcomed me into their family, offered to walk me down the aisle alongside Natasha since neither of us had mothers anymore. "You're our son now too," Vernon said, "if you'll have us." I hugged him and cried. This was what family should be. 2 weeks before the wedding, I got a letter, Canadian postage, my father's handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a check for $10,000 and a note. "For the wedding, I won't be attending, but I wish you happiness. This should help with costs. Please don't contact me again." Blood money. That's what it felt like. He was trying to buy his way out of guilt. I showed Natasha. "What do you want to do with it?" "Cash it," I said immediately. "And donate every penny to a victim assistance fund for people injured in car accidents. Let something good come from his cowardice." We did exactly that. The organization sent a thank you letter that I kept. Proof that even from his selfishness, some good could emerge. The wedding was beautiful. Small, intimate, filled with people who'd actually shown up for us. Malik gave a speech about true friendship. Yolanda talked about watching her sister fall in love with someone worthy of her. Vernon welcomed me officially into their family. My father's absence was noticeable, but not devastating. I'd grieved the relationship long before the wedding day. My recovery continued. A year after the accident, I was back at work full-time. Some lingering issues, occasional headaches, some memory problems, but overall doing well. Better than doctors had predicted. Natasha and I bought a house, started talking about kids, built a life that had nothing to do with my father. Then, 2 years after he'd moved to Canada, my father had a heart attack. Not fatal, but serious. He was in the hospital in Vancouver for a week. A nurse found my name as his emergency contact in his wallet. She called me. "Mr. Whitmore, this is Vancouver General Hospital. Your father, Gregory Whitmore, has been admitted." "Is he okay?" "He's stable now, but he's asking for you." The irony wasn't lost on me. Now he wanted me there. Now he needed me. "Tell him I can't make it," I said. "Tell him hospitals make me too anxious and seeing him like that would be too hard. Tell him I need to protect my own peace of mind." "Sir, I—" "Tell him exactly that, word for word." I hung up. Natasha looked at me. "Are you sure?" "Completely sure. He taught me that biology doesn't obligate anything. That family can just walk away when things get hard. I'm applying his own lesson." "He might die alone." "He chose to be alone. That's on him." The nurse called back 3 more times. I didn't answer. My father eventually recovered and was discharged. I later heard from Mr. Holloway, who I'd kept on retainer to monitor my father's situation, that he'd hired a home care nurse and was doing fine. But something interesting happened. My father's friends from his old life in Detroit started reaching out to me. They'd heard about his heart attack through the neighborhood gossip chain. They'd also heard that he'd called for me and I hadn't come. Most of them understood. "He abandoned you first," Malik pointed out when people asked his opinion. "You don't owe him anything." But some people judged me. Distant relatives, mostly. People who hadn't been there during my hospital stay. "He's your father. You should forgive him." "He had his chance to be my father," I told one particularly pushy aunt. "He chose not to take it. I'm just following his example." My father tried calling me once, about 6 months after his heart attack. I let it go to voicemail. His message was brief. "Desmond, it's Dad. I'd like to talk. Please call me back." I didn't, just like he hadn't called me back when I was in the hospital. just like he'd ignored my existence for years. Natasha asked me if I felt guilty. Sometimes, I admitted, but then I remember waking up and finding out he'd left the country while I was fighting for my life, and the guilt goes away. 3 years after my accident, Natasha and I had our first child, a daughter we named Isabel, after my mother. Holding her in the hospital, I understood something new about my father's abandonment. I could never do what he did, I told Natasha. I could never walk away from her, no matter how scared I was. That's because you're a good man, better than he ever was. My father found out about Isabel through social media. Someone from his old church had stayed connected with him and apparently shared the news. He sent another letter with another check, this time for $5,000 for the baby. I donated that money too, this time to a charity supporting single parents, in honor of my mother who'd essentially raised me alone even before the divorce. My daughter is almost 2 now. She'll never meet her grandfather, not because I'm keeping her from him out of spite, but because he made it clear he doesn't want to be part of our lives. And I've learned that you can't force people to care, even if they're supposed to. I still think about my father sometimes. Wonder if he's happy in Canada, if he's built a new life, if he ever regrets his choices. But I don't wonder enough to reach out. That door closed the day he moved without saying goodbye. My physical scars from the accident have faded. The emotional scars from my father's abandonment took longer, but they've healed too. Or maybe not healed exactly, but integrated into who I am now. Someone who knows that family is about choice and commitment, not just shared DNA. Vernon, Natasha's father, fills that role now. He's there for the big moments and the small ones. He babysits Isabel. He helps with home repairs. He shows up. That's what fathers do. I'm 35 now, 4 years past the accident that changed everything. I have a wife who loves me, a daughter who lights up my world, in-laws who've adopted me as their own, and friends who proved more loyal than blood. My father is alive somewhere in Canada, living whatever life he chose. I hope he's happy. I really do. But his happiness isn't my responsibility anymore, just like my well-being apparently wasn't his. Some people think I should reach out, make peace, give him another chance. They say life's too short for grudges. But I'm not holding a grudge. I'm simply accepting the reality he created, a life where we're not part of each other's stories. Would you have given your father another chance after what he did? Or do you believe some betrayals are too deep to forgive?